Good morning, Intenders.
Good morning.
Welcome and welcome back to Morning Intentions. Today is Wednesday, July 1st. Finally, we're actually in July. And as a quick reminder, this is the last episode for this week. Annette and I are taking Thursday and Friday off for the 4th of July. And then we'll be back fresh and ready to rock and roll on Monday.
As we get started today, Ada, you have been saying the last few days that life is constantly changing.
Mm-hmm.
And on the first day of this theme, we said suffering often comes from trying to hold on to an old version of life. And I wanted to be clear about what we mean by life is always changing. Here are some examples. Children grow up, our parents age, our bodies age, jobs change, friendships change, sometimes friendships end, our health can change, our dreams and desires and goals can change. So then the question becomes, how do I move with the change, not how do I stop the change? Typically, that's where the suffering comes in as we try to stop the change. We don't want our kids to grow up. We don't want to change jobs, even though we know it's no longer working for us. That's the question, is how do I move with change? And reprioritizing is one of the answers, not how do I stop the change? And a part of this that you asked me yesterday, what am I holding on to? Because that was our intention from Monday. And I said, I'll share tomorrow. What I'm holding on to is part of all of this. And that's grieving what I thought my life was going to look like at this stage. I love my life, but my life doesn't look exactly like I thought it was going to look. And I know that I'm no different than anyone else. We have this idea, many of us, that, well, when I'm a certain age, this is what life's going to look like. And then this is going to happen and that may happen. And then when it doesn't happen the way we think it is going to happen, and sometimes we can even say the way we think it should happen, there is grieving. And with the grieving comes a reprioritizing. Here are some examples. Not all of these are true for me, but I wanted to share this. We can have a loss of a career that we thought we would have for a very long time, or maybe even until we retire. We also experience a loss of a younger body, and that's a big one. Let me tell you, I'm almost 65 years old. And I don't feel any different than I did when I was 25, 35, 45. I mean, I feel just the same. But then who's this person looking at me in the mirror? Well, she's got wrinkles, she's got gray hair, she's got all the stuff. And sometimes there's a real disconnect, and that's a part of what we're talking about. Life changes and we don't look the same, and some people don't feel the same. Also, we can be very much into our family, and then children grow up, they go away. Sometimes those relationships aren't what we hope that they would be. We also might experience changes in friendships and lose friendships. And sometimes we lose our health. I mean, I'm going through a little skin cancer thing here, and that's really nothing in the grand scheme of things, I know. But I've had so much skin cancer that it feels a little bit demoralizing on some days. And then I hear about other folks and they're really struggling with health. When we lose our health, there is a lot of grief that goes on when life changes. And some of those changes are wonderful and some of them aren't so wonderful. There can be and there will be, in many cases, grief. And as we think about our priorities, let's say you're dealing with a health situation. I'm going to use my situation because it's simplistic, but maybe then if whatever you're going through yourself, you can extrapolate this out. So I'm going to have my fifth skin cancer surgery next week. I'm still feeling fine, but it does impact my life where I'm like afraid of the sun almost now. And so the choices that I make when I do things, the attire that I wear when I do things, I have to reprioritize and prioritize my health. And that can feel restrictive. And that's a little thing. I have a lot of compassion. I was just watching this speech the other night, and the person that was speaking had just had a heart transplant last year, and his whole life had changed. Well, when life changes, we then must reprioritize so that we can show up as the best version of ourselves, that we can have compassion for ourselves and give ourselves support, that we are true and authentic with others so that they know what's going on with us. But most importantly, before we can start reprioritizing, we have to give ourselves permission to mourn the change. If we skip over that step, that's just something that we push down. And then we can't bring all of ourselves to the next phase of life.
I think it's helpful in a world that's constantly changing, in a life that is filled with change. Like you're sharing, Annette, there there have been many a year where you were healthy and didn't have skin cancer, then now it's a routine. And that change could be shocking for some. If it's a big enough change, it's shattering. It's could be so big. That's where what I brought up yesterday about it's so wonderful you have a poem like The Journey by Mary Oliver. I think in a world of change, it's great to find what can remain as constant as possible. And it can't be a person because people change. And we also have to allow each other to change. It can't be anything that's too, you're forcing it to be something, but just having something in life where you can turn to it in troubled times within all the change. And so it doesn't change. You can always go back to the journey. Mary Oliver's not going to update that thing. You can always go back and reread the journey and find what you found the first time around, or you can find more depth. For me, and this is my version of this, I always look to my faith. God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. So when I'm all frazzled because life is changing and it's scary, because I get scared from the change often because I like things to be the same. I like to know what's going to happen. I like to know these are the bananas I'm going to get, and this is the store I'm going to buy them at. I like things that constant, but of course that never works out. So whenever I feel that shaken up, I pray about it. I say, help me through this. And for me, that becomes a nice anchor. God isn't going to change. That helps me through all the storms of change that are part of my life.
And I think it's important to have many things.
Yeah, not just
I mean,
one
I just
thing.
don't go to Mary Oliver's poem every day of my life.
I know that. I was
I mean,
just thinking of
I
that's one you
haven't
bring
made it
up.
like a sacred scripture or something, but I do think it's important to have many things or your few favorites. So whether it is a scripture that is important to you and gives you comfort and guidance and that firm foundation, like you're saying, whether it's prayer, it can be meditation, it can be different mindfulness practices. I really appreciate what you're sharing because we all need something that can ground us, that can anchor us during times of change. And that will help with the reprioritizing because it helps us to feel secure enough so that we know that we can handle whatever is going to come next.
So, over this holiday, the next 2 days, Thursday, Friday, and actually make it the weekend too, let's get curious and start to look through our lives. What is there to anchor us throughout a life of change? And it can be a faith, it can be a poem, it can be a novel that you just love, it could be a TV show that you rewatch over and over. I have many of those where when I just need something cozy or life feels big, I go back and I watch Stargate SG-1. I love that show, and I watch it over and over, all 10 seasons and the movies, because it just makes me feel good when it feels like things are getting a little too shaken up.
It also can be an activity. Sometimes I just grab Molly and go for a walk.
That too. Even if there's a lot of change, you can go for a walk with a dog.
Yes. So let's think about these helps that will be there for us throughout this month when we're looking at the changes of life and how we know it's time for reprioritizing and determining what that's going to look like.
Thank you so much for joining us today and this week. Our day is better because you are part of our day. See you Monday.
See you then.